CJ Stroud had the worst half of his football career, maybe his life, in this divisional playoff game against the New England Patriots. It was a disappointing loss, but 4 interceptions in the first half of that game. We're going to talk about the Houston Texans today, an autopsy of how their season ended, what went wrong, how do they bounce back from it. There's a lot to unpack here. Doug, you wrote an article coming off of this game about how CJ Stroud, was basically their savior of the franchise after that rookie season, and now he's their problem. When you look at what happened in this game in particular, 4 interceptions in the first half. They really couldn't bounce back from it. There was talk of benching him in the second half of this game. When you looked at the tape, what was the story that was told? And how do we get to that point in that game where he just completely fell apart?
Yeah, it was at the end of the first half, it was 21-10 New England, and Stroud had completed 10 of 26 passes for 124 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, and a passer rating of 27.2. I am not a mathematician, but I don't think that's good.
Not great.
I think the first thing that happened was they ran into a really unexpected buzzsaw, because the Patriots defense, since Milton Williams came back in week 18, has been an absolute nightmare for everybody. And yes, you watch the Chargers tape, and the Chargers are, I think you and I were the left tackles for Justin Herbert. It was not good. So great. You expect that. But the way the Patriots went after Stroud and covered on the back end, yes, the sacks were pressure sacks. They were also covered sacks. He was not finding anything downfield. And yes, Nico Collins was out. But this season, the Texans actually have a better passing EPA when Collins has not been in games, which sounds bizarre, but it's true. And I do think because it's not just the fact that Stroud wasn't performing well in that game, to bring in Davis Mills for CJ Stroud in the second half of a playoff game sounds nuts, but Mills played well enough. He was the prototypical game manager when Stroud was out with the concussion and whatnot. I think at that point, you sort of have to punt on the plan and go with anything different, because it was no better in the second half. DeMeco Ryans said, well, CJ made a few more plays in the second half, but he couldn't have made any fewer. So, I would have gone in that direction. So I think the first thing we need to mention is that the Patriots, and I wrote about this today being Wednesday, the Patriots defense over the last 2 games has been a completely different animal. And Jarrett Stidham and the Broncos are about to find that out this Sunday in the NFC Championship game. What happened was Stroud, the things that have sort of befuddled him all season continued to, against a completely unexpected opponent. And it was just one of those nightmare avalanche things where the snowball keeps rolling downhill and you just don't know what to stop.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the discourse on social media at halftime of that game, and it's hard to argue with the emotion of, oh my God, we just have to do something different. Like, we have to try something. And again, nothing against Davis Mills. I do think he played competently. Like, he handled things while CJ Stroud was out earlier this year. I just think when you look in totality at where this franchise is and the decisions they have to make at quarterback, the interesting thing is going to be there's a lot of interesting things here with CJ Stroud and his future. But when you're making that decision, if you're making that decision in week 9 and you're just getting your ass beat and nothing is going right, I understand saying, hey, CJ, let's just punt. We'll figure this out Monday and just flush it and move on to the next game. This is the playoffs. Like, if you can't trust the number 2 overall pick, your franchise quarterback in that moment, I think you're saying more about what's happening to you as a franchise and what your future is than just punting on a half of football and saying it's just not working today. Like, I saw somebody, I forget who it was, an analyst or somebody, say, you don't leave your ace pitcher in the game if he's getting shelled in the 3rd inning and like it's 8-0. Like, you take him out and you move on. It's just not the same thing. It's not the same thing to me at all as like, hey, kid, you just didn't have your best stuff today. Go sit down. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. When you're a franchise quarterback and you're in the playoffs and you've thrown 4 interceptions, but I don't think it's the same thing to say, hey, we're going to bench you to try to save our season, and then come back going into the next season being like, oh, but we still trust you. Like, you're still the guy. Like, I at that position, I don't think it's the same thing at all. So I don't fault them for sticking with him. I don't know that Davis Mills gives them any better chance to win. And I think that you giving him the opportunity to at least try to get back on the horse again. The bar was very low, but he did not throw any interceptions in the second half. So that's something, I guess. Obviously, it was just a bad day at the office for that entire offense, and there's a lot to unpack about why that was. But that decision in particular, I think was still the right one. It's the one I would have made, to look my quarterback in the eye and say, hey, we still believe in you. This team is still behind you. It would have felt like a panic move to me. And that if I'm a player in that locker room, if they would have benched him, I feel like I would have reacted more poorly to that than DeMeco saying, hey, you're still our guy, we're going to ride with you. That I would have felt better with him making that decision personally.
I mean, I get the global view, and Stroud said after the game that it meant so much to him that Ryans had his back and his teammates had his back, and you're going to have your franchise quarterback's back no matter what. He can throw 10 interceptions and you're still going to believe in him. And I don't think Stroud has all of a sudden become this horrible quarterback. It was just a total nightmare situation, the worst possible situation he could have been in. But in that moment, I mean, I would argue that if you want to sit him down in week 9, that to me is, well, okay, yeah, but this is, and Stroud as a professional, I think would understand this. Like, okay, I just don't have it today. I can't see it. They're not moving him out of the pocket. It just, nothing's working. Let's try and find something that works. And if you go down in a hill of beans in the second half with Davis Mills, I mean, I don't know how much blowback there's going to be when the quarterback was performing that poorly in the first half. So I understand what you're saying. In the longer view, like when they come back next year and they still have that great defense, and Stroud has all the confidence, and Nick Caley, the first-year offensive coordinator, because they went from Bobby Slowick, who was Stroud's OC in the first 2 seasons, to Caley, who's an old Patriots guy. Very different offense. So if you're looking at it like, okay, this isn't our year, that's different than this isn't our day. So maybe in that case, if you're looking at it that way, it's like, okay, I get it. I just think in the moment, at the half, I would have sat Stroud down and say, look, buddy, we have rolled with you. We love you. You're our guy. I think in this moment, we need to do something else.
I mean, you briefly mentioned it with the offensive coordinators, but what this guy had one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen from a quarterback. I mean, we were talking about, oh my God, I can't believe the Panthers didn't trade all that to get this guy. They took Bryce Young instead after that big trade with Chicago. They should have taken this guy. He was the no nonsense rookie of the year that year on offense. And the year he had was just incredible. Everybody was singing his praises. He's the next, he was in those conversations already. Like maybe he's a top 5 guy already.
Justifiably so. He was out there.
Yeah, but I mean, what has happened since it? Like, what can we point to anything outside of him to say this is what's influencing a degradation that has just been shocking? I mean, we've seen rookies at every position, even quarterback, come out and have a really great rookie year and just never recapture that. But if you take that snapshot of that entire rookie season and juxtapose it with what we saw from him in that first half on Sunday, I mean, how is that the same player? What has happened around him? And is anything happening that you can pick out on film just within what he's doing? How does that all work?
Well, going back to Ohio State and all the falderall about, he can't roll outside the pocket, which was always garbage. But he's a very composed quarterback. And I'm not saying he's bad under pressure. He actually has become worse under pressure in each of his 3 NFL seasons. And I think what happened in the second year when Tank Dell got hurt and the offensive line was just abysmal, I think something, I don't want to say a string broke or something snapped, but it's hard because what he's doing now is he's not as composed a quarterback. He is making some really strange decisions to throw the ball when he's being taken down to the turf. He'll just throw the ball in desperation. That's something you really never saw from him in college or in his first NFL season. I think that second year, something within him said, I have to do everything. And I don't think he's quite shaken that. But his passer rating under pressure, 2023, his rookie season, it was 76.4. 2024 was 69.7. This year it was 54.2. Stroud is a deep passer. In his rookie season, 38 of 65 for 1,289 yards, 9 touchdowns, no picks, a passer rating of 142.5 as a deep passer, 20 or more air yards. This season, 19 of 51 for 671, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a passer rating of 85.2. So I think what's happened with Stroud, I mean, I'm not in his head. I don't know him. I haven't asked him these questions. But I think at a certain point in 2024, he said to himself, I have to be more than I am if we're going to get to where we've needed to go. And I think even with the improved offensive line, and my God, that defense has just been, it was amazing all year.
What a waste, right?
I know. I think there's still something in his head like, I need to make the spectacular play when really he doesn't. What he needs to do is keep the game in his head, go from play to play. If you take a sack, that's fine. It's not an interception. If you throw the ball out of bounds, that's fine. Live to fight another down. Be a sustaining offense with a defense like that, and you're okay. But when I've watched Stroud's tape this season, I do see that element, that sort of rogue gene I've talked about with quarterbacks before, with your Baker Mayfields and your Jameis Winstons and whatnot. Stroud has never been that kind of quarterback, but this year I've seen too many examples of him trying to do things so outside of structure that there's just no way it can work. And I will hope that his coaches will work with him on that to say, okay, you know what? You're great, but you don't need to be a superhero all the time. Because I think that's where he sort of set himself up.
Yeah, I think the thing that frustrated me the most watching that game on Sunday in particular was at least 2 of those interceptions were just like late behind throws. Like they were just like, you went too late, and if you're going to throw late, you have to throw outside to the bat. Like you have to throw from your receiver's reach to the sideline. You have to miss there. And again, these are fundamental things, and I know he knows these things. It's not the same in the moment, but like, I'm not telling him anything he doesn't already know. But like when you throw late in the progression and you throw behind, in the NFL, those will get picked every single time. Like you just can't do that. And again, I know he knows that. We touched on it a little bit.
This also speaks to the regression, right? Because he wasn't doing that in 23. He wasn't doing that in college.
Fundamental ball placement stuff. Even the one on the, they had the wheel to Kirk, and he just throws it to the moon, like instead of putting it on him. Like, how much of that is communication? How much is that I see it this way, you see it that way? But the ball placement on Sunday in particular was just so unlike anything we saw from him, even at Ohio State. Like, it's just like, these are fundamental things that are degrading, and why. And I think, again, you explained a good reason of a good bit of why that could be not necessarily his fault, but in trying to overcome certain things, it's leading to these uncharacteristic mistakes. I think the most interesting thing for this team is what do they do now? Because they're going to have some decisions soon about 5th-year option with him. That's not cheap for a quarterback that's number 2 overall pick.
Well, you pick up the 5th year. I don't think there's any question about that.
Right, but if that, like, these things are all tied together. Like, if you're going to say, we're not sure this is the guy in the playoffs on the road that we can trust right now, those decisions start to be important, because yes, you pick up the 5th-year option because it just makes sense, but you also have, like, look at teams like Minnesota, where, they have that top 10 pick rookie on a rookie contract in JJ McCarthy, and I'm not trying to make it the same situation, but if you're a team that's going to compete in the playoffs, you can't have a question mark at that position. You can't be unsure about what's happening at that position. The Texans can get away with it more than most because they have that defense, but they're not going to be able to keep that defense together forever. We know how that works too. Like, they have key guys on that defense and on rookie contracts, and they're not going to be able to stay that way. They're not going to be able to pay all of those guys to stay. And so I guess when you look ahead, do you still think CJ Stroud can be the guy? How do they recapture that rookie magic, and what do they need to put around him to try to allow him to go back and find that player again?
I think you can. I mean, what happened to Tank Dell, that gruesome injury? I mean, they expected Tank Dell to be a big part of the vertical passing game, and he was when he was healthy. They expected Nico Collins to be the alpha dog, and he has been when he's been on the field, but that's been a mixed bag. I think you continue to improve the offensive line. I think you need at least one more really impactful receiver on the roster. I would love to see Dell come back and be what he was, but who knows?
I'll step in. What's frustrating to me, though, is like they have invested so much at receiver recently. Like they between Nico's
with state kids, and
Dell is a day 2 pick. They picked both of the Iowa State kids on day 2 this past year. Hutchinson is a decent receiver, but they paid Dalton Schultz in free agency. Like, how much more can they really do at that position is kind of how I would look at it. How many roster spots are actually free for a receiver at this point?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. The other thing I would do is I would get him out on the move. I would have this be more of a boot offense, because I saw far too many snaps where I'm like, why are you making him stick in the pocket like this.
Yeah.
Maybe that's his preference. I don't know. But I would say that I would want more of a moving, not crazy Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen stuff. That's not really who he is. But get him on the move, cut the reads in half, one side or the other of the field. Just get him in a rhythm with his feet where he's not, because quarterbacks in one way are kind of like boxers. Some of them, if you hit them early, the glass jaw thing sort of happens. And the Rocky Balboas or the Muhammad Ali, the more you hit him, it's like the better he gets somehow. I'm not saying Stroud has a glass jaw, but there's something about all those hits. With some quarterbacks, it's just over time, the addition of more and more hits, it starts taking effect physically and mentally. And I think it has with Stroud. So you need to figure out how to create intermediate to explosive plays where he's not in the pocket so much, because explosive plays take time. Duh. It's simple math. It takes longer for a guy to run down the field. So you've got an extra, 0.8 seconds in the pocket you have to deal with. Well, if the pocket's moving, it's a little easier. They can do things to make things easier for Stroud. And again, this is, first year OC, very different system. Maybe the thought is year 2, it'll be fine. And maybe it will be. Stroud, he hasn't lost any of the talent he has. It's not like injuries have, sapped him of his strength, like unfortunately happened with RG3. We're hoping that doesn't happen to Jaden Daniels, who was like the best rookie quarterback ever in year 1. And then year 2, he just kept getting hurt. There are things they can do for Stroud. I think in the end, they will decide that he is the franchise guy, but they've got to make some moves. And he needs to develop past that shakiness under pressure that I have to be. And it's not like he doesn't reduce himself under pressure. He almost does the other thing too much, where it's like, oh, and now I have to be Superman.
Yeah.
And that's
one thing I would not have done is trade Laramie Tunsil. I would not have done that. I don't know. But again, a lot of their, like Ed Ingram, I've said this before, was a disaster in Minnesota. He's been really good for them. So the moves they made pretty much hit, but they were starting from zero in a lot of ways. So going back to what you said about not benching Stroud because you're looking at the view next year, 2 or 3 years down the road, this is our franchise and this is where we're going. I can understand it in that regard, where, hey, even if we lose a couple guys on defense, it's still going to be a top 5 defense. We can put the offense more together in Nick Caley's second year. And then things just sort of go in directions they didn't go before. I don't think Stroud is a bust. I don't think he's some sort of disaster. He's not a radically different quarterback than he was in 2023. It's just that you're seeing a lot of the more regrettable tendencies now because of all the things that have happened over these 3 years. It will be up to Ryans and Caley and all those guys, all the coaches, sort of reset. It's almost like unplugging your modem and plugging it back in. You just need to put your brain in the dishwasher and reset the whole thing. Hey, we've all been there. If you liked this video, make sure to click on this one right here and find out what went wrong with the Philadelphia Eagles this season.